When Uncle Terry died, we placed sunflowers on his casket. No children survived him, so he tithed his savings to the conservation of butterflies. The church was cold, those old stones holding the stories of 30 or so generations, matrimony and lament, baptism and dedications. He was the last of his siblings, so now buried was a lineage like those sunflowers that he cherished. We printed a picture of him standing beneath one and decided that was how he'd be remembered. All those memories now sunk beneath the soil. But when spring arrives and thaws the frost-bound ground, they will not rise. Their time has come and gone. We are but butterflies, fluttering for a day and believing it is forever. What can I say of a life that was so weathered? And by that, I mean, my uncle lived seasonally. How else do you plant a garden unless you submit to both the summer and the wintering? His calloused hands told the story of handling living things. The bleak cold mornings and that joy of welcome spring, the pain of mourning what could have been, and the joy in receiving the gifts the giver came to bring. Are we not standing in the gardens planted by our forefathers? Are we not reaping a harvest we didn't sow? Are we not leaning on the limbs of an oak and standing within the shade of a forest that someone else chose to grow? Martin Luther was asked, if you knew tomorrow the world would end and today would be your last, how would you spend it? And he said, I would plant an apple tree. The Greeks believed a society only thrived when people plant trees they know they'll never live to see. So how fickle we have been, tossed by every changing wind, giving in before we have become a witness. Yes, there is the life we live, but there is the unlived life within us, and between the two stands the resistance. Nietzsche put it like this: it is long obedience in the same direction that brings heaven to our streets. So summon the critic, bring me the cynic, I'll tell him this: blessed are the meek. Blessed is the one who still believes, childlike, impoverished, hardly able to even speak, but who has not forgotten Solomon's wisdom. For it is not the lack of wealth, reputation, or esteem, but the absence of vision that brings people to their knees. So distracted by our greed and our lust to succeed, we have gathered into barns instead of casting out our seed. And yet it is the back scarred by wooden beams and the sacrifice of fools that remind us of the actions that actually move us closer to the renewal. Did you hear of Fukushima? When the sea brewed and the earth hurled herself into the ground, a nuclear site erupted. An invisible storm rained down, contaminating the land and poisoning the food, and they evacuated thousands, but for those that couldn't move, they stayed housed in, surrounded by elusive clouds that lingered like ghosts, becoming suspicious of the air that they once innocently consumed. And yet, amongst the chaos, there was a monk dressed in crimson hues who walked through those fields planting sunflower seeds within the ruins. And over time they grew and they removed the poison. Sunflowers, offering themselves as objects of both beauty and atonement. They drew the cancer from the ground into themselves until it was broken down, announcing, where sunflowers lift their golden crowns, we find evidence of this hope. Even in the soil of decay, something beautiful can grow.